dungeon. Sounds bad. So the concept that we're going to use to create our dungeon is called the 5-room dungeon. This is actually a technique that even the Wizards of the Coast have used to create dungeons. The 5 rooms are as follows. The first one is an entrance with a guardian. The next room is a puzzle or a role-playing challenge. Next is a trick or a setback. The next room is the big climax. And then the last room is the reward. So first we'll start with the entrance. You're gonna wanna ask yourself a few questions. Why haven't people found this place? Does it need a special key? Is it trapped? Maybe there's an ambush waiting. Maybe there's some sort of actual guardian, like a guard dog. Or maybe there's a maze of entrances and no one knows which one is the right one. For our dungeon, we're basing it off of a one-shot I've been creating. The setting is a dense forest, and I didn't want to do the whole Zelda Lost Woods thing again. Not because I don't like The Legend of Zelda. A lot. But I wanted to do something different. I considered a maze idea, and when you look at the maps, you'll see I have a little maze drawn in the top left that I've decided to kind of abandon because I didn't want it to be too complicated. It is a one-shot after all. So instead we're going to have the group make a general survival check. If they succeed their survival check, they will stumble upon pixies, but they will stumble upon them during the day. If they fail, they'll stumble upon them during the night. But nighttime will make our lair a little bit more difficult. Regardless, the sprites will have one surprise round. During the surprise round, the sprites will try to trip up one of the players. They like to do a little bit of mischief. From here, the players can do one of a couple things. They could catch the sprites and force them to lead the way to the lair. They can kill all the sprites and force their way through the forest. If they do this, they will definitely arrive in the evening time. Or they could come up with something else that's super creative but gives us a headache. The key here is that the sprites know where the baddie is. In fact, the sprites have been delivering the sleeping children and putting them at the edge of the forest, where the townspeople have been finding them. Also, the sprites don't necessarily want to die. They just want to create a little bit of mischief. So if attacked, they will either run or they might try to negotiate with the players. The next room is a puzzle or role-playing challenge. You might want to skip this if your players are more into just the battle part, but I find having a good mix of both puzzles and combat really adds to the whole narrative. Whenever you're creating a puzzle, make sure that you have multiple solutions. Allow for your players to be super creative and come up with things you didn't even think of. Otherwise, if you only have one solution, things will get tiresome and your players will immediately stop having fun. For our puzzle, we're going to have a door with a riddle. The riddle is, I am not living and I cannot die, but saying I'm invincible would be a lie. My death comes through hunger, cold, and suffocation, but through my death gives birth to a dark creation. Give you a second to think about what it could be. It's fine. Now, I didn't come up with this riddle. There are plenty of riddles out there. There's the D&D compendium, which has a lot of different traps and things of that nature. On the door, there will be a small groove. This is where they can insert the answer to the riddle. In this case, since it's fire, they could use some fire magic, a torch, or a match, any type of fire. If they're really stumped, after a while, I might let the most perceptive player notice bits of ash, or maybe there's remnants of other torches that maybe don't fit the age of the ruin. The next room you want to create is a trick or a setback. This is to raise the stakes. So this could really be anything. It could be another puzzle or another encounter. But you want this to change everything. For our dungeon, we're going to put in a high-level carrion crawler, which I will have edited to be a little bit harder than what's in the monster manual. Essentially, I'm making this a mini boss, and I want players to believe that this is the boss that they're after. So in this room, I'll also include 2 of the children that are missing. I'm going to make a show of having a really big, crazy looking larva come out of the ground, and it's guarding the 2 children. Upon its defeat, the children though will not be waking up because again, it's not really the monster. But also there's only 2 out of the 4 missing children here. You don't have to edit a monster to fit your needs. You could just use a monster out of the monster manual and be done with it. Now on to the next room, which contains the big climax, aka this is the boss battle room. You want to make this very showy. This is where all those clues have been leading up to, after all. For my scenario, I created my own monster, and I will show how to do that in a video soon. Our big kahuna is gonna have lair actions and going to have a hefty amount of hit points. We're also going to add some terrain elements like broken benches, as well as some strange egg sacs and other gross bug-related things to the room to add to the environment. Once that's done, you need to add the reward. Now for this campaign, there is a small room where the head priest used to stay, and they'll find a little bit of gold in there. Once my players defeat the big bad, they're gonna go back to town with the children, and that's going to be the biggest reward of the whole one-shot. Now, instead of building your own dungeon map, you could go online and look for maps to base your entire dungeon off of. A quick Google search can give you a whole smattering of different forest terrains. You can do that on Pinterest as well. Again, Pinterest is not just for housewives. I've also become a patron to different people who create maps and share them with their patrons. So that's another way you can do it and support someone in the community. I use Dungeon Draft to create some of my own maps. I like Dungeon Draft also because it imports maps directly into Foundry, which is what I use for virtual games, and this one in particular is going to be a virtual game. Editor Kylie here. If you guys want to see a rundown on how I run things virtually, please let me know in the comments and I will totally make a video about that. But anyway, if you liked this video, you're gonna want to watch this one next, because it's all about how to create a one-shot in no time flat.